The words crackle through the radio like ice breaking underfoot, each syllable a calculated betrayal that freezes the blood of 8 elite warriors. "You are merely expendable pawns that can be sacrificed," Colonel Garrison Blackthorn's voice carries across 15,000 miles of satellite transmission, landing with surgical precision in the ears of SEAL Team 7. "Air support will not come. I suggest you, gentlemen and lady, start praying." The tactical display screen flickers in the makeshift command post, showing 200 red dots slowly constricting around 8 blue ones like a python squeezing its prey. Lieutenant Schuyler Ravencroft's weathered hands grip her rifle tighter as the reality of their abandonment settles over Echo 9, position like a funeral shroud. 12:47 p.m. Korengal Valley, Afghanistan. The clock starts ticking on what military historians would later call the most brazen act of treason in modern special operations history. Friends, what you're about to hear is a story of ultimate betrayal and unexpected salvation that will shake your faith in military honor. If you believe in justice and the warrior code, please hit that like button and subscribe to support our channel. Your engagement helps us bring these incredible true stories to light. Thank you for being part of our community. The morning had started like dozens of others in this forsaken valley that American forces nicknamed the Valley of Death. Lieutenant Schuyler Ravencroft leads her team through the pre-dawn darkness, their boots finding purchase on rocks worn smooth by centuries of conflict. Her Texas drawl cuts through the comm static as she assigns sectors of fire to each operator. "Phoenix, you've got the northern approach with your med kit ready," she says to Staff Sergeant Phoenix Steelwind, whose hands have saved more lives than most surgeons see in a lifetime. "Atlas, set that M240 on the eastern ridge." Corporal Atlas Ironforge, built like his namesake and twice as dependable, hefts the machine gun into position with practiced ease. The mission brief had been straightforward. Establish an observation post at Echo 9 to monitor Taliban supply routes through the valley. Colonel Blackthorn himself had overseen the planning from Joint Operations Command in Bagram. "This is a milk run, Ravencroft," his gravelly voice had assured during the video conference. "In and out, 72 hours max, full air support on standby." The other 5 members of the team, Petty Officers Orion Darkwater, Blaze Thornfield, Ranger Whitehawk, Storm Nightwind, and Chief Petty Officer Titan Goldshore, had exchanged knowing glances. In Korengal, there was no such thing as a milk run. Every rock could hide a fighter. Every shadow could conceal death. By 0630 hours, they reach Echo 9, a natural defensive position carved into the mountainside by geological forces that seemed to anticipate human warfare. The team establishes their perimeter with textbook precision, setting up interlocking fields of fire and redundant communication systems. Ravencroft positions herself at the command post, a shallow depression reinforced with sandbags that offers a panoramic view of the valley below. "Home sweet home," mutters Thornfield, unpacking his sniper rifle with the reverence of a violinist preparing for a concert. His spotter, Whitehawk, begins ranging distances to potential threat positions, calling out numbers that Thornfield records in his range card. The first sign of trouble comes at 1100 hours when their long-range scanner picks up unusual movement patterns in the valley. "Boss, I'm counting at least 50 fighters moving up from the south," Darkwater reports from his observation position. "They're not moving like farmers." Ravencroft studies the patterns through her binoculars, noting the disciplined spacing and deliberate movement that speaks of military training. "Could be a patrol," she says, though something in her gut, that sixth sense honed by 3 deployments and countless firefights, whispers otherwise. "Let's call it in." The satellite phone connects after 3 attempts, Blackthorn's voice coming through with unusual clarity. "Copy your traffic. Team 7. He responds to Ravencroft's situation report. "Maintain position and continue observation. Probably just local militia passing through." The dismissiveness in his tone raises the first red flag in Ravencroft's mind, but the chain of command is sacred in special operations. She acknowledges the order and returns to watching the valley. By noon, the 50 fighters have become 100, and they're no longer moving through. They're establishing positions around Echo 9. "Contact left." Atlas Ironforge's voice explodes through the team frequency as the first rocket-propelled grenade screams past their position, detonating against the rocks 20 meters behind them. The ambush springs with choreographed precision. Machine gun fire erupts from 3 directions simultaneously, forcing the SEALs to dive for cover. Ravencroft's training takes over as she coordinates the defense, her voice calm despite the chaos. "Phoenix, get smoke on that northern approach. Thornfield, priority targets on the ridge." The team responds like the finely tuned instrument they are, each member executing their role while adapting to the fluid battlefield. The initial assault lasts 17 minutes, though it feels like hours. When the firing temporarily subsides, Ravencroft takes stock. No casualties yet, but their ammunition expenditure is already at 15%. "They're probing," Chief Goldshore observes, replacing an empty magazine. "Testing our positions and response patterns." The tactical display now shows over 150 red dots, with more streaming in from adjacent valleys. Ravencroft keys her radio to reach Bagram. "Viper Base, this is Angel 7-1. Troops in contact, requesting immediate close air support. Over." Blackthorn's response comes after an agonizing 30-second delay. "Angel 7-1. Negative on the air support." His voice carries an odd undertone, almost satisfaction. "All assets are committed elsewhere. You'll need to hold position until we can arrange extraction." Ravencroft feels the blood drain from her face. In 15 years of service, she's never heard of all air assets being unavailable in an active combat zone. The Korengal Valley sits directly under the flight path of multiple air bases. "Sir, we're looking at 200-plus hostiles and counting," she presses. "We need those birds now." The words that come next will haunt every survivor of Echo 9 for the rest of their lives. "You are merely expendable pawns that can be sacrificed," Blackthorn states with chilling clarity. "Air support will not come. I suggest you start praying." The transmission cuts off, leaving only static and the sound of Ravencroft's elevated breathing. Around her, the team exchanges glances of disbelief. Phoenix drops his medical supplies, his face pale beneath the desert tan. "Did he just—" Atlas begins. But another wave of attacks cuts off his question. This assault is different, coordinated, purposeful, designed to overwhelm. The Taliban fighters know exactly where the SEALs' positions are, targeting their heavy weapons first. An RPG round impacts directly on Ironforge's machine gun position, the explosion sending him tumbling backward. Phoenix rushes to his aid under covering fire from Thornfield and Whitehawk. The medic's hands work with practiced efficiency even as bullets crack overhead. "He's good! Just his bell rung!" Phoenix shouts over the din. "But the 240 is done!" Without their primary heavy weapon, the defensive equation shifts dramatically. Ravencroft makes a command decision that would normally require authorization. "All stations, we're going to fighting withdrawal to alternate position Bravo." The team begins a textbook retrograde operation, moving in pairs while maintaining suppressive fire. But as they reach the secondary position, horror dawns. The enemy already has it zeroed. Mortar rounds begin dropping with uncomfortable accuracy. "They know our contingency positions," Storm Nightwind observes, voicing what everyone is thinking. "They know our goddamn playbook." The situation deteriorates rapidly over the next hour. Ammunition runs low. They're down to 400 rounds total across 8 operators. Whitehawk takes shrapnel to his shoulder, Phoenix working frantically to stop the bleeding while still manning his sector. The Taliban fighters grow bolder, advancing in disciplined bounds that speak of professional training. Several wear body armor and use hand signals identical to NATO standards. "These aren't mountain fighters," Goldshore says during a brief lull. "These are trained soldiers. Someone prepped them for us specifically." At 2:17 p.m., with the sun blazing overhead and the team down to their last magazines, something extraordinary happens. A single rifle report echoes from the western ridge, distinctly different from the cacophony of AK-47 fire. A Taliban fighter advancing on Darkwater's position drops mid-stride. A precise headshot from over 800 meters. Another shot. Another fighter down. Then another, and another. The shots come with mechanical precision, each one finding its mark with impossible accuracy. "Who the hell is that?" Titan Goldshore scans the western ridge with his optics, but sees nothing. The shots seem to come from empty air. The mysterious sniper, already earning the moniker Ghost in the team's tactical chatter, systematically eliminates the Taliban leadership structure. Radio operators, heavy weapon crews, squad leaders, each falls in turn. Within 11 minutes, 17 enemy fighters are down, and the coordinated assault begins to falter. The remaining Taliban fighters pull back, suddenly cautious. They've gone from hunters to hunted. Ravencroft tries to raise the sniper on all frequencies, but receives no response. Whoever this guardian angel is, they're operating on their own program. The Ghost continues firing, each shot perfectly timed to maximum psychological effect. A fighter breaks cover to retrieve a fallen comrade's RPG. Down. Another attempts to flank the SEAL's position. Dropped before he makes 10 meters. The precision is almost supernatural. The shooter apparently able to predict enemy movements before they happen. Through her spotting scope, Whitehawk catches a glimpse of something. A flash of movement. A hint of carefully crafted camouflage. "Boss, bearing 270. Elevation plus 15 degrees, he reports. "I've got... Wait, that can't be right." Ravencroft swings her optics to the indicated position and freezes. The hide is perfectly constructed, invisible to all but the most trained eye. But what catches her attention is the small detail visible through a gap in the camouflage netting. A challenge coin, deliberately placed to catch sunlight. The coin bears the insignia of Delta Force with a name she recognizes from legend. Seraphina Coldridge. "Archangel," Phoenix breathes, recognizing the same detail. Colonel Seraphina Coldridge is a ghost story in the Special Operations community. Officially retired after an incident in Syria that remains classified above Ravencroft's clearance level. Unofficially, stories persist of her appearing in impossible places, always where operators are in trouble, always disappeared before anyone can confirm her presence. But here she is, 800 meters away, methodically saving their lives one impossible shot at a time. The Ghost's intervention gives the team breathing room to consolidate their position. They redistribute ammunition, treat Whitehawk's wound properly, and establish better defensive positions. But questions burn in everyone's mind. How did Coldridge know they'd be here? Why is she operating alone in Taliban-controlled territory? And most importantly, if Blackthorn betrayed them, who else knows? The rifle reports continue with metronomic precision as the sun begins its descent toward the western peaks. 23 minutes have passed since the Ghost began her deadly symphony. 31 Taliban fighters now lie motionless on the rocky slopes. Ravencroft watches through her scope as Coldridge adjusts position, the movement so subtle it might be wind disturbing the vegetation, but the lieutenant knows better. She's seen this before, years ago at Fort Bragg, when a mysterious instructor appeared for exactly 1 week to teach advanced counter-sniper techniques. The woman had introduced herself only as Archangel and revolutionized everything Ravencroft thought she knew about long-range engagement. "Boss, we've got movement to the south," Orion Darkwater reports, his voice tight with exhaustion. "Looks like they're pulling back, but—" He pauses, studying his sector. "Something's off. They're leaving equipment behind." Indeed, the Taliban retreat lacks the organized chaos of a tactical withdrawal. Fighters abandon heavy weapons, leave wounded comrades, flee in disorder. The Ghost has broken more than their assault. She's shattered their morale. No one wants to be the next target of the invisible death dealer. Phoenix Steelwind finishes treating Ranger Whitehawk's shoulder wound, having extracted 3 pieces of shrapnel with the precision of a surgeon, despite the combat conditions. "He'll make it, but we need evac within 6 hours, the medic reports. "I'm down to basic supplies, and infection's going to be a concern in this heat." Ravencroft acknowledges with a nod, her mind racing through contingencies. With Blackthorn having betrayed them, standard extraction protocols are compromised. Who can they trust? How deep does this conspiracy run? The answer comes in an unexpected form. Ravencroft's tactical radio, set to an emergency frequency rarely monitored, crackles to life. "Angel 7-1, this is Archangel. Switch to secure channel Delta 99. Authentication. Your father's squadron in Da Nang was the Ghost Riders." The lieutenant's blood runs cold. Only someone with access to her classified personnel file would know that detail about her father's service in Vietnam. She switches frequencies, ensuring the encryption is active. "Archangel, this is 7-1. Authenticate. What was the last thing you told me at Bragg?" Coldridge's voice comes through clear, tinged with grim amusement. "That one day you'd need to know the difference between honor and orders," she responds. "Looks like that day has come, Lieutenant. I've been tracking Blackthorn's communications for 6 months. You and your team walked into a sale worth $2.5 million. The words hit like physical blows, each revelation more damaging than the last. Ravencroft forces herself to remain professional despite the rage building in her chest. "How many others know?" she asks. "More than you'd hope, fewer than you'd fear," Coldridge replies cryptically. "I've got transport inbound, but not through official channels. Can your team make it to grid reference Tango 73 in 40 minutes? Ravencroft calculates quickly. The position is 2 clicks through hostile territory, but manageable if the Taliban remain disrupted. She confirms, then turns to her team. "We're moving in 5. Thornfield, you're on point with Night Wind. Phoenix, can Whitehawk travel?" The medic nods, already preparing his patient for movement. The journey to Tango 73 becomes a masterclass in tactical movement. The team flows through the terrain like water, using every fold of earth and shadow for concealment. Behind them, occasional rifle reports indicate Coldridge is still active, discouraging any Taliban fighters considering pursuit. At one point, Blaze Thornfield raises his fist, signaling halt. 50 meters ahead, a Taliban patrol moves across their path, unaware of the SEAL's presence. The team freezes, weapons ready, but the patrol passes without incident. Whether by luck or Coldridge's overwatch, they remain undetected. They reach the extraction point with 7 minutes to spare. It's a narrow valley with just enough flat ground for a helicopter landing. More importantly, it's surrounded by high ground, that Coldridge has already secured. The ghost herself remains invisible, but her presence is felt. A small mirror flash from the eastern ridge confirms she's in position. 2 minutes out, her voice advises over the radio. It's not military. Don't shoot the civilians. The helicopter that appears over the ridge line is indeed civilian. A medical evacuation bird bearing the markings of a humanitarian organization. It touches down in a cloud of dust, and the side door slides open to reveal 2 figures in flight suits with their faces obscured. One gestures urgently for the team to board. Ravencroft hesitates for a moment. Every instinct screams, this could be another trap. But Coldridge's voice cuts through her doubt. They're clean, Schuyler. I vetted them personally. The team boards quickly, Whitehawk grimacing as Phoenix and Atlas help him into the cabin. As the helicopter lifts off, Ravencroft scans the ridgelines one last time. For just a moment, she spots a figure rising from a hide position 800 meters away. Coldridge stands in full view, her rifle held at port arms in a warrior's salute. Then she vanishes into the terrain as if she never existed. The helicopter banks hard, heading not toward Bagram as expected, but northwest toward the Pakistani border. "Where are we going?" Ravencroft demands of the nearest flight crew member. The man pulls off his helmet, revealing a face she recognizes from intelligence briefings. Major Jasper Stormbridge, Pentagon liaison for Special Operations Oversight. "Somewhere, Colonel Blackthorne can't reach you until we sort this mess out," he says grimly. "We've got bigger problems than just your team's betrayal." What do you think is really going on here? Who else might be involved in this conspiracy? Leave your predictions in the comments below. And don't forget to hit that like button if this story has you on the edge of your seat. The flight takes them to a forward operating base, so classified it doesn't officially exist. As the team disembarks, they're met by a small group of similarly unofficial personnel. Among them, Ravencroft recognizes 2 other SEAL team leaders who were supposedly on leave. "Welcome to the club nobody wants to join," one says without humor. "You're the 3rd team Blackthorn's tried to eliminate this month." Inside a reinforced bunker that serves as a tactical operations center, Major Stormbridge lays out the full scope of the conspiracy. Blackthorn's been selling operational intelligence to the highest bidder for 18 months, he explains, gesturing to a wall covered with connected photographs and documents. Taliban, ISIS remnants, even some cartels in South America. Your team was supposed to be the latest transaction. $2.5 million for the location and tactics of SEAL Team 7. How did Coldridge know? Chief Goldshore asks the question on everyone's mind. Stormbridge smiles tightly. Because she's been running her own investigation since her retirement. That incident in Syria? Blackthorne tried to burn her entire Delta unit. She was the only survivor. Officially, she's been off the grid since then. Unofficially. He gestures to a laptop showing intercepted communications. She's been building a case that would make any prosecutor weep with joy. The evidence is damning beyond doubt. Bank records showing deposits to Blackthorne's offshore accounts in the Caymans totaling $8.7 million, encrypted communications with known terrorist financiers, operational plans for American units provided to enemy forces. But most shocking are the audio recordings. Blackthorne's own voice authorizing the betrayal of his own forces. One recording, dated just 3 days ago, captures him laughing about the sheep being led to slaughter in Korangal. The problem, Stormbridge continues, is that Blackthorne isn't working alone. We've identified at least 4 other officers involved, but we don't know who they are yet. They're using code names in all communications. He pulls up another document, this one showing a complex network diagram. What we need is for Blackthorn to implicate them himself, and that means letting him think his plan succeeded. Ravencroft's eyes narrow. "You want us to play dead," she states, rather than asks. Stormbridge nods. "For 72 hours. Let him collect his payment. Get comfortable. Maybe even brag to his conspirators. Meanwhile, we'll be preparing for the most important hearing the Pentagon has seen since the Walker spy ring." The Major turns to address the entire team. "I won't lie to you. This is dangerous. Blackthorn has resources and connections. But with Coldridge's evidence and your testimony, we can end this." The team exchanges glances, a silent conversation flowing between warriors who've faced death together. Finally, Atlas Ironforge speaks for all of them. "We're in. But I want that bastard to look us in the eyes when he goes down." Stormbridge grins, the expression sharp as a blade. "Oh, he will. I promise you that." The next 72 hours pass in a blur of preparation. The team provides detailed depositions, reviews evidence, and coordinates with military prosecutors. Phoenix's medical treatment of Whitehawk is documented as evidence of the combat they survived. Meanwhile, Coldridge continues her surveillance of Blackthorn, sending encrypted updates every 6 hours. The Colonel, believing SEAL Team 7 eliminated, has indeed collected his payment and is already negotiating the next transaction. An Army Ranger unit operating in Somalia. On the morning of the 4th day, everything is ready. The Pentagon's secured conference room has been prepared for what's officially listed as a routine operational review. In reality, it's an ambush more carefully planned than any military operation. 7 general officers are present, including the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. None have been briefed on the true purpose of the meeting. Blackthorn enters at precisely 9 a.m., his uniform immaculate, his bearing confident. He has no idea that SEAL Team 7 is waiting in an adjacent room. "Colonel Blackthorn," the chairman begins formally, "we're here to review the loss of SEAL Team 7 in Korengal Valley. Your report states they were overwhelmed by superior forces despite your best efforts to provide support." Blackthorn nods solemnly, his face a mask of professional regret. "It's a tragedy, sir. They were excellent operators, but the intelligence failure was catastrophic. We had no idea the Taliban had concentrated such forces in the valley." "Indeed," Major Stormbridge interjects, entering the room with a laptop and projector. "Perhaps you could explain this intelligence failure in more detail, Colonel?" He connects the laptop, and suddenly Blackthorn's voice fills the room. "You are merely expendable pawns that can be sacrificed." The Colonel's face drains of color as his own words condemn him. The recording continues, each word another nail in his coffin. That's been manipulated," Blackthorn stammers, but his voice lacks conviction. The general's expressions have shifted from confusion to shock to rage. The chairman's face is particularly thunderous. "Manipulated?" Stormbridge asks mildly. "Then perhaps you can explain these bank records? $8.7 million, Colonel. That's quite a retirement fund for a man on a colonel's salary." The door to the adjacent room opens, and SEAL Team 7 enters in full dress uniforms. The sight of them alive breaks something in Blackthorn. His carefully maintained composure shatters like glass. "You're supposed to be dead," he breathes, the words barely audible. Ravencroft steps forward, her blue eyes cold as Arctic ice. "Sorry to disappoint you, sir," she says with lethal formality. "But SEALs are harder to kill than you calculated. Lieutenant Ravencroft," the chairman addresses her directly, "is it your testimony that Colonel Blackthorn deliberately betrayed your position to enemy forces?" Ravencroft's response is immediate and unwavering. "Yes, sir. He provided our exact coordinates, our communication frequencies, our contingency plans, and our extraction routes. Everything the enemy needed to eliminate us. Phoenix Steelwind adds his own testimony about the wounds sustained, the lack of support, the calculated nature of the betrayal. Blackthorn makes one desperate attempt to salvage his position. "You can't prove any of this in court," he says, some of his arrogance returning. "It's all circumstantial, hearsay." His words are cut off as the conference room door opens again. Colonel Serafina Coldridge enters, still in her field gear, carrying a briefcase. She sets it on the table and opens it, revealing dozens of files, recordings, and photographs, the evidence of 6 months of painstaking investigation. "Colonel Blackthorn," she says, her voice carrying the quiet authority of absolute certainty, "I've been watching you since Syria. Every communication, every transaction, every betrayal, it's all here, including the identities of your 4 co-conspirators." She produces a final document, a decoded communication showing code names and their corresponding real identities. One name makes the chairman stand abruptly. It's another colonel, currently commanding a forward base in Iraq. This is it, friends, the moment of truth. Will justice finally be served? Keep watching to see how this incredible story concludes. The ending will restore your faith in military honor. The arrest happens with stunning swiftness. Military police, who have been waiting outside, enter on the chairman's signal. Blackthorn is relieved of his sidearm and placed in restraints. As they lead him past SEAL Team 7, he stops in front of Ravencroft. "You have no idea what you've done," he hisses. "The money I took was nothing compared to what's coming. There are forces at work you can't imagine." Ravencroft meets his gaze steadily. "Whatever's coming, we'll face it with honor." "That's something you forgot, sir. The Warrior Code isn't for sale." The aftermath unfolds quickly. Within hours, the 4 other conspirators are arrested at their posts around the world. The network Blackthorn built collapses like a house of cards. The intelligence he sold is analyzed, and counter-operations are launched to protect American forces. Dozens of planned attacks are prevented. Hundreds of lives saved. The damage assessment takes weeks, but the bleeding has been stopped. 6 months later, the military tribunal convenes at Fort Leavenworth. The courtroom is packed with observers, including families of soldiers who died because of Blackthorn's betrayals. SEAL Team 7 sits in the front row, their dress uniforms bearing new decorations for valor. Ravencroft now wears captain's insignia, a battlefield promotion for her leadership during the Korengal incident. Beside her, Phoenix Steelwind sports the Purple Heart he earned protecting Whitehawk. The trial itself is almost anticlimactic given the mountain of evidence. Coldridge testifies for 3 days, methodically laying out the conspiracy in detail. Her testimony is clinical, professional, devastating. She reveals how Blackthorn recruited his conspirators, how they selected targets, how they justified their treason to themselves. "They convinced themselves they were patriots," she explains to the court, "that the money would be used to support veterans, to right wrongs done by the system. But greed corrupted even that delusion." When Blackthorn himself takes the stand, his attempts at justification fall flat. He claims the system failed him, that his sacrifices were never recognized, that he deserved more. The prosecutor, a sharp military lawyer named Commander Sarah Brightwater, demolishes each argument with surgical precision. "You swore an oath, Colonel," she says during closing arguments, "not to wealth, not to comfort, but to defend this nation and the warriors under your command. You violated that oath for money, and in doing so, you betrayed everything the uniform represents." The verdict is unanimous, guilty on all counts: conspiracy, treason, attempted murder, and 17 other charges. The sentence is life without parole in military prison. As the judge reads the sentence, Blackthorn's facade finally cracks completely. He breaks down, sobbing about promises made and threats against his family. But it's too late for sympathy. The families of the dead aren't interested in his tears. After the sentencing, SEAL Team 7 gathers outside the courthouse. The Kansas sun beats down on them, a gentler heat than Korengal's furnace. They stand in a circle, not speaking, just being present with each other. Warriors who faced betrayal and death together, who survived because of skill, luck, and a guardian angel named Coldridge. Finally, Atlas Ironforge breaks the silence. "So, what now, Captain?" Ravencroft smiles, the expression containing both sadness and determination. "Now we go back to work," she says simply. "There are still enemies out there, still threats to face. But we face them as a team, with honor. We face them the right way." The others nod in agreement, the bond between them stronger than ever. They've learned that the greatest enemy isn't always external. Sometimes it wears the same uniform, speaks the same language, shares the same mess hall. As they prepare to leave, Coldridge appears one last time. She's in civilian clothes now, looking like any other woman in her 40s, but the team recognizes the warrior beneath the casual exterior. "There's something you should know," she tells Ravencroft quietly. "Blackthorn was right about one thing. This goes deeper than just 5 officers. I've identified at least 4 more conspirators, but they're being more careful now. They know I'm watching. Then we'll be ready." Ravencroft responds without hesitation. "Whatever comes next, whoever's involved, we'll be ready." Coldridge nods, a ghost of a smile on her weathered face. "I know you will. That's why I saved you. Not just because it was the right thing to do, but because this fight isn't over. The nation needs warriors like you. Warriors who remember what honor means." She hands Ravencroft a simple business card with only a phone number. "If you ever need an angel on Overwatch," she says, then walks away, disappearing into the crowd with the same ease she vanished into the Afghan mountains. The team watches her go, knowing that somewhere out there, the ghost is still watching, still protecting those who protect others. The final scene takes place at Arlington National Cemetery, where the team pays respects to those who weren't as fortunate as they were. Standing before the graves of operators betrayed by Blackthorn's intelligence, they observe a moment of silence. Then Phoenix Steelwind speaks, his voice carrying across the sacred ground. "We survived so we could tell their story, so their sacrifice wouldn't be forgotten or dishonored. We carry their memory now." As they walk back through the cemetery, past thousands of white markers representing centuries of sacrifice, Ravencroft reflects on the journey from that desperate firefight in Korengal to this moment of justice achieved. The system worked, eventually. Honor prevailed over greed, truth over deception. But the victory feels incomplete, knowing that other conspirators remain hidden. Other Blackthorns waiting for their opportunity to trade lives for money. "You know," Titan Goldshore says as they reach their vehicles, "I keep thinking about what Coldridge said, about the difference between honor and orders." The team pauses, considering his words. "We followed orders into that valley," he continues, "but it was honor that got us out. Honor from a ghost sniper who didn't have orders to save us. Honor from officers like Stormbridge who risked their careers to expose the truth." Storm Nightwind, typically the quietest member of the team, adds his own thought. "Maybe that's the real lesson here. Orders can be corrupted, twisted, sold to the highest bidder. But honor? That's personal. That's what each of us carries inside. No one can take it from us. We can only give it away. The team separates then, each returning to their assigned duties. But they carry with them the knowledge that they've been tested in the crucible of betrayal and emerged stronger. They've learned that the greatest battles aren't always against foreign enemies on distant mountains. Sometimes the fight is closer to home, against those who would corrupt the very institutions they swore to defend. And sometimes salvation comes from unexpected places, from ghosts in the mountains who remember what it means to be a warrior. In her final report on the incident, Captain Schuyler Ravencroft writes, "SEAL Team 7 survived the Korengal betrayal not because of superior firepower or tactical advantage, but because honor still exists in unexpected places. A retired operator chose justice over comfort. Fellow warriors chose truth over career advancement. A system designed by humans proved capable of self-correction when good people refused to remain silent. The enemy we faced wore our uniform and spoke our language. But in the end, the brotherhood and sisterhood of arms proved stronger than greed. We were saved by a ghost, but more importantly, we were saved by the enduring belief that some things, honor, duty, justice, are worth more than money. They always have been. They always will be." The report concludes with a simple recommendation that reverberates through the special operations community. Trust must be earned daily, verified constantly, and never taken for granted. The price of freedom isn't just vigilance against external enemies. It's the courage to confront corruption wherever it appears, even when it wears the same flag we do, especially then. 6,903 miles away, in a hidden valley in Afghanistan, local shepherds tell stories of the ghost sniper who saved American soldiers from certain death. They speak of impossible shots, of justice delivered from 800 meters. They don't know her name or her story, but they know what they witnessed. Sometimes, they say, angels come in camouflage. Sometimes, salvation arrives one bullet at a time. And somewhere in America, Colonel Serafina Coldridge sits in an unmarked office, studying new intelligence reports, tracking new threats, protecting warriors who don't know she exists. Because that's what honor demands. Not recognition, not reward. Just the quiet satisfaction of knowing that today, the good guys won. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, new betrayals, new tests of character. But for today, justice has been served. The brotherhood and sisterhood of arms endures, stronger for having been tested, ready for whatever comes next. 3 years pass before the full truth emerges. A congressional investigation, triggered by Coldridge's continued surveillance, uncovers a network spanning 12 officers across 4 branches of service. The conspiracy reaches higher than anyone imagined. A 2-star admiral, 3 Pentagon procurement officials, even a congressional liaison. The money trail leads to Swiss accounts, shell companies in Panama, and connections to arms dealers in 7 countries. Blackthorn, it turns out, was middle management in an operation worth hundreds of millions. Captain Ravencroft, now Major Ravencroft, leads a new unit tasked specifically with internal security reviews. Her team includes Phoenix Steelwind, promoted to Master Sergeant, and Atlas Ironforge, who turned down a commission to remain where he's most effective. They operate from a nondescript office in Virginia. Their mission classified but vital. Every month, they prevent another potential betrayal. Every month, they save lives that will never know they were in danger. The reunion happens at Ruby's Roadhouse, a veteran-owned bar in Colorado Springs. 5 years to the day after Korengal, SEAL Team 7 gathers to remember. White Hawk's shoulder bears scars but functions perfectly. Phoenix's medical skills having saved full mobility. Thornfield has retired. teaching marksmanship to new generations of warriors. Darkwater runs a security company, employing veterans who need purpose after service. They raise glasses to absent friends, to those who didn't make it home because of Blackthorn's greed. They toast Coldridge, who none of them have seen since the trial, but whose presence is still felt in the operations community. At 11:47 p.m., exactly the time the betrayal began in Korengal, Ravencroft's phone buzzes. The number is unknown, but she recognizes the cadence of the message. New players, old games. Grid reference follows. Your call, Captain. It's Coldridge, still watching, still protecting, still being the ghost that haunts those who would betray America's warriors. Ravencroft shows the message to her team. Without hesitation, each one nods. They're in, whatever it is, because that's what honor demands. The final lesson of Korengal isn't about the betrayal or even the justice that followed. It's about the unbreakable bonds forged in crucible moments. It's about ordinary people choosing extraordinary honor when everything collapses. It's about ghosts who refuse to let evil win, and warriors who understand that the fight never really ends. It just changes shape, changes terrain, changes uniform. But honor, real honor, endures. It endures in midnight messages and mountain shadows, in courtroom testimony and congressional hearings, in the quiet determination to stand watch against enemies both foreign and domestic. Somewhere tonight, in places the world will never know about, operators like Ravencroft's team stand ready. They carry the weight of Korengal's lesson. That vigilance is the price of integrity. They know that somewhere, Seraphina Coldridge still watches through her scope, still sends coordinates when darkness threatens to overwhelm light. They understand that every generation must fight this battle anew. Because corruption never sleeps, greed never rests, and honor requires eternal defense. The ghost sniper taught them that salvation often comes from unexpected angles, sometimes from 800 meters away, delivered one precise shot at a time.